Imagine walking out of a shop with something you haven't paid for. Is that theft? What if you intended to pay later? In this video, we're breaking down the Theft Act 1968, what legally counts as theft, and how intent can make all the difference. The Theft Act 1968 was introduced to simplify old and confusing laws around stealing, things like larceny, embezzlement, and false pretenses. Instead of having separate offenses for each, Parliament created one unified definition of theft. It's over 50 years old, but it's still the foundation for modern theft and dishonesty offenses used by courts and police today. Section 1, Definition of Theft. Section 1 of the Act defines theft as a person is guilty of theft if they dishonestly appropriate property belonging to another with the intention of permanently depriving the other of it. That's a mouthful. So let's break it down. There are 5 key elements that must all be present. These are also known as points to prove as far as charging and prosecuting someone goes. 1, dishonestly appropriate. 2, property. 3, belonging to another. 4, with the intention. 5, to permanently deprive another of it. Section 2, meaning of dishonestly. The Act doesn't strictly define dishonesty. It tells us what's not dishonest, which provides possible defenses. If you genuinely believe you have the right to the property or that the owner would consent, you're not acting dishonestly. The courts use the 2-stage Ivy test, asking, was the conduct dishonest by the ordinary standards of reasonable people? And what was the defendant's genuine belief? Section 3, meaning of appropriates. Appropriation means assuming the rights of the owner, basically treating the item as if it's yours. You don't have to take it physically. Even switching a price label counts, as in R.V. Morris, 1983. Once you assume any of the owner's rights, appropriation has occurred. Section 4, meaning of property. This covers money and all kinds of property, personal, real, and even intangible things like electricity or credit in some contexts. Section 5, meaning of belonging to another. An item can belong to another if that person has possession or control over it, not just ownership. So in R.V. Turner, 1971, a man was convicted of stealing his own car because it was in a garage's lawful possession for repairs. Section 6, meaning of intention to permanently deprive. Finally, this means treating property as your own to dispose of. Even if you plan to return it, if it's returned in a changed or diminished state, it can still be theft. A key case is R.V. Lloyd, 1985. Borrowing cinema film reels to copy them wasn't theft because they were returned undamaged and still usable. Let's look at those examples again in context. R.V. Morris, swapping a label equal appropriation. This was a self-service shop. The customer assumed the owner's rights by swapping a price label on the item, because deciding the price of goods is an exclusive right of a shop owner. The prosecution doesn't need to prove that the assumption is of all rights of the owner. Just any single right is enough to satisfy the appropriation element of theft. Note that this appropriation was complete the moment the label was switched. So don't listen to people saying that theft only happens once past the point of sale. R.V. Turner, stealing your own property equals still theft if it's in someone else's lawful possession. The defendant, Turner, took his car to a garage for repairs. Once the repairs were done, he tried to avoid paying the bill, using a spare key to take the car from the garage without the garage owner's knowledge or consent. He tried to appeal the conviction, but the Theft Act states that property shall be regarded as belonging to any person having possession or control of it, or having in it any proprietary right or interest. This was the case as the garage was in control of the car when it was taken, and they had a legal right to retain possession until the repairs had been paid for. R.V. Lloyd, temporary borrowing without loss equals not theft. In this case, a cinema projectionist temporarily borrowed films, making illegal pirate copies of them, and returned the reels so they could be back for their next scheduled screening. Although there's obviously copyright infringement and potential loss of revenue due to the creation of pirate copies, in terms of those specific film reels, it was determined temporary borrowing does not generally amount to theft unless the item is returned in such a changed state that all its goodness, virtue, or practical value has gone. Related offenses. They're worth their own videos, but there's other offenses under the Theft Act. Burglary, stealing from a building, robbery, theft with force or threat of force, handling stolen goods, knowingly dealing with stolen property. Theft itself is triable either way, meaning it can go to magistrates or crown court, with a maximum sentence of 7 years on indictment. So to recap, theft under the 1968 Act comes down to dishonestly appropriating property belonging to another with the intention to permanently deprive. Get those 5 right, and you've got the legal framework behind almost every theft case in the UK. Thanks for watching. If you found this breakdown useful, hit like, subscribe, and check out my next video where we'll explore burglary under the same act and how it takes theft one step further.